Hello Hammer Pattern subscribers, and welcome to a Turnip 28 Swill competition. At the start of the month, on the Turnip 28 Discord channel, the creator of Turnip 28, Max Fitzgerald, released a competition for his new game called Swill to make a boat made out of a can. This is a sardine can. The competition was making a boat called a Scab Steamer out of a can, tin can, or tin. And I went with a sardine can. This is the SS Iron Angler. I was inspired by specifically the game Dredge. If you haven't played Dredge, it is a fishing Lovecraftian horror game where you are on a boat and you go fishing. One of the monsters that is out in the darkness is a giant anglerfish that pretends to be a boat, and at night it will be wandering around, and when you sound your air horn or your foghorn, it will respond back with a foghorn. But if you get close to it, it is revealed to be actually a giant anglerfish. So I sort of took some inspiration from that, giving it this one eyeball thing, and also this is a fishing vessel. I put a little engine on the back, a little motor on the back. There's probably about $100 of Imperial Guard Valkyrie parts on this thing. This is all Valkyrie parts. This, I think, is Valkyrie parts. Pretty sure this is it's all just extra Valkyrie parts that I was given by my friend who plays Imperial Guard and did not need the extra Valkyrie parts. Little plastic rivets, green stuff to make these bumpers. That's just a piece of plastic card. This is some plastic card tubing that I melted down with a hot glue gun to sort of give it this flange. And these cigarettes are just plastic card tubing. The vibe on Swill is specifically fish, cigarettes, and oil. So I made sure to... I don't really have fish. The closest thing... I did make a little box of fish, but I wasn't really happy with the paint job, and so I didn't end up putting it on the final product. I would like to come back and repaint this because I think I did a good job building and sculpting it, but I kind of rushed the paint job due to the time constraints on the competition. So I'll probably come back to that, but fish, oil, I've made sure that this is greasy and grimy and grungy, and cigarettes. So I just have a bunch of cigarettes on the fishing console, on the jerry can of oil because OSHA compliance is for idiots, just sitting on the deck, on this part of the engine, also OSHA compliance is for idiots, and on the harpoon gun because every boat needs a weapon. Currently I have no idea what the rules for these boats are going to be. So I really just built this to be interesting and cool, more so than, oh wow, then it needs to have a gun and it needs to have a transport capacity of blah blah blah. There was a recommended transport capacity, well actually I guess a required transport capacity that has to physically fit 3 models, which I think I can do 4. Actually I can do 5. I think 5 would be pushing it, but it's doable. Swill is a skirmish game, not a battalion game, so there's a requirement for much less models. I will probably be making a Swill gang because I've already started. I've started with this little man, this little fish man. I love Shadow over Innsmouth. I'll probably be doing a Shadow over Innsmouth sort of thing with some weird fish people. This is the Try Before You Buy ghoul that I've just sculpted a fishy face and a bowler hat onto. So eventually that will become part of the Swill gang. But I'd love to go over how I made this because I haven't made something this scratch built this quickly in a long time. Usually I agonize over how to build something like this, but this just came together. So I started with the tin can. I ate the sardines, I got some crackers, and I got some pizza, and I put the sardines on the crackers and put the sardines on the pizza, and I ate as much of the sardines as I could stand. And then I watched the absolute fuck out of this because I did not want this model to actually smell like sardines. Even just having the sardines in the room was starting to off-gas and have the room smell like sardines. So once I had this clean, I gave the edges of the inner can, not really a sanding, but I kind of blunted them down with a hobby knife. Whether or not that made it more sharp or less sharp, I don't know. But the first thing I did was seal in the deck completely with ya boy coffee stir sticks. Coffee stir sticks are great. They're made of wood, they're easy to cut, they're all the same size, so you don't have to reshape a bunch of stuff. There's some sort of balsa wood planks that I made as well, just to sort of break up the monotony. After that, I cut a hole in this area and this area, and put this little engine. This engine, just more Valkyrie parts. I think this is a missile pod, like a Valkyrie missile pod, but like it's got two back ends instead of missiles and a back end. So that and another, I don't know what this is from, but it became a little engine. So I had the engine and the deck, and then I started just doing detailing, and that was building this downrigger out of spare parts, building this harpoon gun out of spare parts. This is just, I think, some Cities of Death terrain, but like, I didn't plan on this being like a fleshy monster initially, but when I ended up putting the wash on this cabling, it just sort of ended up looking a little bit more fleshy than I had initially planned. But I kind of went with it because this is supposed to be some sort of sentient meat monster trapped inside of a can. I then did some bumpers. You gotta have bumpers, gotta make sure that your boat's protected. And I just made some green stuff, or mixed some green stuff together, and put some paper clip to have a little loop, and then tied it with some, I think it's rigging, like it's actually miniature rigging rope, which is pretty cool, and I'm finding a lot of uses for it. So that turned out pretty good. And then on the sides, I added rivets and rivets and rivets. I think this is a little 3D print thing, and some, I'm pretty sure this is plasticard, and I think, I probably should have done more detail on that. That's just wood, plasticard again, plasticard, teeth, and that's kind of how I built this. Oh, and this is a hook from the new Mandrake kit. They've got those horrible bone hooks, and I thought, oh well, that looks like a pretty good lure, and so I put that on as well. And after I had it all built, I gave it a black prime, and I gave it a full overcoat with a mixture of Mod Podge, black paint, just literally black craft paint, and I used a little bit of sand, and I also used some hobby snow. First of all, it made sure, hopefully, that all of these detail bits, all of these little things that I've glued on are going to stay glued on, but it's also given everything a sort of rough, sort of rusty texture. Everything's got sort of a texture to it. If you can kind of hear it. Yeah, it's kind of grindy because of all the little microparticles. And after that, I did a dry brush of silver or metal, or chrome on all of the metal parts, and then I base coated the wood brown. And for the wood is actually a lot of effect paints more than anything. The wood is just, I think, a two-tone, brown and then light brown highlight, and then I just went to town on using this Vallejo acrylic slimy grime dark, as well as oil stains. So just using sort of effect paints to dirty it and grease it and grime it all over the place. For the side paneling, after I had the silver, the silver's almost completely gone at this point, but there is some areas where you can kind of see it. I went with color scheme, I guess, from the Titanic. I copied the smokestacks because they sort of had the look of a cigarette, and I had the black panel or black side paneling with red on the bottom. That's what I went with as far as colors. And then basically it was just making it all dirty and rusty and greasy until I was happy with how it looked. I added a lot of layers of effect paints and gloss paints until it sort of looked the way I wanted it to. This plate here is just a piece of distressed plastic card, and I did my best. I feel like the one thing that's driving me crazy is the R is just a little bit too low. If the R was up a little bit higher, I would be perfectly pleased with this, but it's just like a tiny bit too low, and that is kind of driving me crazy, but that's fine. And at the very end, I added these little cigarettes, which is just sheet styrene tubes cut into little bars. I painted a little bit of orange on one side, and then I dipped the end to sort of make it look like it's like a chunky cigarette in another Vallejo. I used black mud so that it's really hard to tell because of how tiny these are, but that the cigarettes have like a burnt end on them. And then I just sort of scattered those all over the place. I put some here, and I put some up here, and I basically wanted this boat to just be covered in cigarettes, because it's a fishing ship, and it's a fishing ship for British criminals. They're not gonna throw their cigarettes in the ocean, they're just gonna drop them where they land. After that, just many layers of grease and grime, it was done, and I took some photos and I did a little video edit, and I submitted it to be judged in the Scab Steamer competition. And I'm really hoping that I win. I know that there's some really good entries, and I think top 10, if they do like a top 10 or an honorable mention, I think I'm up there. But there are definitely some boats out there that are really good. But I'm very proud of this. I could not be more happy with how this turned out. This is probably one of the coolest things that I've made in 2 days. I built it on Saturday and I painted it on Sunday, and I filmed it on Monday, and I could not be more pleased with how this turned out. I don't know when the rules for Swill are going to come out. It's possible that when this video comes out, they've already been released. But I'll probably try it out. The bar for entry is a lot lower. You only need, I think, 5 or 6 models and a boat and a tank. And so I got the boat, and then I'll probably make a tank in the same vein. Just another little conversion project, and then we'll be off to the races. So yeah, thanks for checking this out. Hopefully you've seen some of the other entries, because they're really cool, and thanks again for tuning in. I'm really pleased with how the first vlog went, and I'm hoping to do more. So let us know what you think of this. Let us know what you would name your boat. I went with the Iron Angler because it's like an angler fish, and it's an angler, but it's metal. So let us know, what would you name your boat in the comments, and we'll see you next time on Hammer Pattern. Thanks. Bye for now.